First of all, your own forecasts are at odds with Treasury here. You're slightly more bearish on the future rate of growth in New Zealand. Why?
Yes, we do see growth slowing a little bit going forward compared to what we were forecasting before the election. Now, part of the story is through migration tapering off, and under the new government's policies, we will see that slower population growth filtering through into the economy. One part where we have seen a lot of growth in New Zealand has been through construction, but increasingly that is an area that is getting constrained by resources and people. And ironically, that is one of the areas where the government will be trying to push harder on the accelerator as well with its Kiwi Build process. So we do see the risk that revenue growth is just a little bit weaker than what we would have been seeing when the government opened the books before the last election.
And Nick, you could argue the economic outlook has deteriorated since the last update in August. So would you expect Treasury to be updating those growth figures today?
We would expect to see the growth outlook be slightly weaker than what we saw in the pre-election forecasts. What I'd stress is that it's not a weak growth outlook for New Zealand, it's just that growth isn't likely to strengthen as much as what envisaged. We still have growth in New Zealand running a little bit over 3% at the peak over the next couple of years. So it's respectable, it's just not quite as strong.
And the newly elected government also has a series of, you could also argue, quite expensive social side reforms and policies. How do you think the government's spending agenda is going to impact the growth trajectory?
Well, when you add in some likely added fiscal stimulus over time, you do have a bit of a balance of things going into place over time, and that's why we still think that growth will be overall reasonable. We are, in our view, going to be seeing, relative to the pre-election outlook, about an extra $12 billion worth of borrowing needed to fund the added spending that this government will do over the period of time. It is able to pay for some of its initial policies by cancelling tax cuts, which were scheduled to come in place from the 1st of April next year. And it is also going to be taking slightly longer to get down to that net 20% of GDP debt target as well. So it is essentially going to be borrowing and injecting a bit of money over time in order to meet its overall promises.